Da 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 da. What's my? Give me 1 second. We'll try that again. Oh my goodness! Just when I'm thinking I'm ready to go, right? Okay, here we go, everybody. Da 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 da. What's my good cheer? Welcome, welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, hi, I'm Cindy. You'll get used to this. I explore the inside and the outside. I was actually talking to my sister. We're both listing. It's Valentine's Day in the next couple of days. So I've got a ton of jewelry that I have to get listed. And a lot of that work that I do in my listing is in the research of it. And sometimes I can list things and they sell immediately. Sometimes they just sit forever and I think they're never going to sell. And when things are slow, all of a sudden somebody inquires about it, and it just makes my day. The idea is to just get the work of it, right? Get the research, the pictures, get it written up, get it posted. And then the hard part's done, right? Then it's just waiting for the inquiries and people to pick it up and hand you the money. And we're on to the next one. But today I did a little bit of listing, and it was really some nice pieces that I got to list today. I actually kind of enjoyed it a little bit. And on top of that, you guys, I've got 2 watchers on my $1,000 garden pot that I got for $6.99. I'm all happy. And my sister is happy too, because she sold a Dragon Ball card, right? They're playing cards for $300. She bought a bid on an auction in the little thrift store that I worked at. They put on auctions at the end of every month. And there was this auction, and there were 25,000 Dragon Ball cards, right? And I'm thinking, what does she know about Dragon Ball cards? And she was bidding on them, right? And she was in a little bit of a bidding war with one of those trading card stores, that carry cards, and you go in and you trade them and you buy them and stuff. And she ended up paying $1,200 for those cards, for 2,500 Dragon Ball cards. I tore her a new one nicely, but I tore her a new. What are you thinking, Alice? I'm saying to her, $1,200 for some playing cards. She goes, watch me, Cindy. That's my retirement. The very first card, remember, she had 25,000 cards. She won the auction, by the way, right? Only by like $50 or something, but she won the auction. The very first card that she put up paid for the entire auction. So that 24,999 cards that she had left was pure profit. And so she puts them up occasionally. She tries to have 2 or 3 cards put up at all times. And then when she sells one, she'll put another card up. She's not anxious to sell them. She says it's her retirement, but you never know what the future has. I know saving is amazing, but I think if the world became a place where it was having difficulties, I think playing cards would be on the last of the list to keep, right? It would be the gold and the silver and the gems, maybe some of the antiques, right? That are truly worth a lot of money. And then I would think, some of those things that are frivolous and they are nice to have, and in the moment they are worth money, that they'll just go to the wayside as just paper, right? But who's to say? Maybe it really is her retirement. And I would be pretty excited for her if she made all that money, because if you got to think, she's got 24,999 cards. We'll just say 75 cards, because she's sold a half a dozen or so of these cards, right? She's starting with the most expensive ones, and then she just put little cheapies in little groups and stuff. But she figures she's going to make at least $255,000. $255,000 on those cards. Absolutely incredible. She's super smart, but I'm super smart too, because I paid $6.99 for my $1,000 garden pot that I have two watchers on. Hello, Tammy. How are you tonight? I saw you were in some of my videos tonight, watching some of those Ontario um, tours, right? I really love doing those every September, and I'm hoping to have a lot of content to tie me over in this year. So I'm not working. So if I can do well, if I can put that money together, if I can sell that garden pot, I'm going away for 3 weeks this year. I'm so excited, right? Today, I actually wanted to go in and take a look at my final decisions on the camp. I already have my campgrounds that I want to do, right? I'm going to do 8 different campgrounds this year, and I'm going to spend 2 days in each one of them. But I haven't like pinpointed the exact campsite. Most of them I have. I've got my favorites. By the time you go in to pay for them, you have to recognize that sometimes those spots have already been paid for and chosen already. So I have to go to my second choice or my third choice, and I keep track of all of that too. But I think it's getting close. Spring is in the air. You wouldn't think so right now. We're probably going to hear the fire trucks a couple of times during my live show today, only because we have a, what do they call it, a yellow weather warning going on right now. We're suspected to have a total blackout from the fog today, because it got so uh, mild in temperature today that the humidity is actually in the air like snow, but it's so light it's just kind of hanging. And at the moment, I can see about 2 blocks, but they say it's going to be absolute blackout. They're already closing down the highways and stuff. And, if it does get really bad and people aren't paying attention to the Weather Channel and the alerts, then they're going to get stuck at a boyfriend's house or at the movie theater or at the mall or something. And they're going to have a hard time getting home. And it's not like people are going to say, oh, gee, I think I'll just take a cab home and leave my car in the parking lot tonight. No, they're not. They're diehards, and they're not going to go anywheres without taking their vehicles. And so I suspect that, if it does get bad at the moment, it's not too bad, but it is. The whole province is going to be under this watch pretty much for the whole night. And so it's going to be interesting to see. I might even go for a walk and go grab myself a cup of coffee, because I have been working hard and getting all that jewelry listed, Valentine's Day coming up. And I had a lady offer me $400 for 2 necklaces that my sister paid less than $100 for the both of them together, right? So yeah, I'm waiting to hear back from her. If I don't, I've had other inquiries on the same necklaces, and because I just listed them today, I'm kind of nervous that I didn't list them at a high enough price. So I might have to change the price and just kind of jack it up a little bit. But I don't want everything that I'm listing to be in the hundreds. And I made note of that today. So I listed a couple of items for $20 or $30 just to mix it up. I don't want to get a reputation of, right, this is high-end jewelry and everybody's going to get, right, what do you call that, burned with the cost of it, right? I'm making some money on it. I'm putting the work into it. And again, my sister's doing the same thing too. She listed on eBay uh, an old 1920s, like when they had the first Ford vehicles and stuff, tin toy gas station and the vehicle. And she listed it for $300, right? We picked it up for 50 cents. And I get 50% of that. I am so happy, right? We're going to just slowly, like, just build that money up so I can just have the best vacation this year ever. Okay, you guys, let me come in and see what Tammy's got to say here. Dragon Balls is famous and very popular, and they are very popular like Pokemon. So I've heard, right? So I've heard. I've never been, a sports card kind of person. Even games and things like that. It's just not my thing. I like to entertain myself. Well, in different ways, but in Cindy kind of ways. And right, the playing cards don't do anything for me. But yeah, some of them, like that first card that she sold, I think she sold it for like $1,500 or something. She even made a little bit of profit on that after she paid what she paid for the whole lot in the auction. And yeah, somebody should have outbid her, because yeah, she's just laughing right now. But she sold another card today, and she sold it for just one card for $300. I thought, oh my goodness, that's just one card. And she's got lots and lots and lots of cards that are worth hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. She's even got some signed Dragon Ball cards by the artists. And yeah, so that's going to be pretty interesting when she starts listing those ones, because those could go at any price, and especially if they pass away or something. Today I sold some Dragon Ball. I sold 300 Dragon Ball Valentine's Day cards to a teacher. So I thought that was pretty good. I got $40 for it, right? But they were still from year 2000, and three of them were boxes that weren't open. I told her, there's so many loose ones in this pile. Keep the three boxes and just hold on to them, because you'll be able, whatever you pay for them, you'll be able to get that amount for each one of those boxes. Just hold on to them. You won't need them. She wanted them for her kids to hand out to the other kids for Valentine's. So I think that's pretty cool, right? There's nothing better than being the cool kid at school. For myself, it did. I was never the cool kid. As I became a little bit older, I found my I found my way. I don't know how, but I did find myself in some groups, and these groups were people that were just as beautiful on the inside as they were on the outside, right? They weren't those ugly mean girls, right? They were just really really beautiful people. But when I was a kid, I would have to be creative, and I would every once in a while have those moments where I was the cool kid, right? I'd never get picked in sports, but whenever I did get picked in sports, not if I was picked last, but if they picked me somewheres in the middle or somewheres in the front of the line, I would blow them away, because I would outdo myself just out of appreciation for being picked, because nobody likes being picked last. And I was pretty good in some of the sports that I did enjoy. Like I enjoyed volleyball, I enjoyed basketball. I didn't like running. Oh, I was the worst runner ever, right? They'd have to go for these 3-mile runs before we would start the gym class. And we had tennis courts at our school, and I would go hide in the tennis courts. And when I saw the school, my gym class, come back towards the gym, then I would run to the back of the line of the class, and then I would be huffing and puffing, like truly huffing and puffing as I'm getting back into the gym class. And nobody ever caught me in that. I never I was pretty sneaky, but I didn't like running. And as an adult now, I appreciate that I never allowed myself, that I never forced myself to do those runs or those jogs, because I was heavier set, and that would have done havoc on my bones, right? It wasn't something good. That high impact exercise, I don't think it's good for people who are truly out of shape. It can cause more damage than it can good, right? I like my walks. I like going for swims. I like bike riding, a little bit of hiking. And other than that, I'm good to go, right? I'm happy with those. And I don't even really have that time, in all honesty, to do those things consistently. I try to get out and go for a walk, but it's not consistent in the winter because the weather just isn't pleasant, right? And at night, too, when you go for walks, those sidewalks are, like right now, those sidewalks are covered in ice. And I don't want to put myself in a situation where I break a hip or a leg or something like that, right? Okay, let me have a sip of my apple juice. We're going to grab our cards. I heard, Tammy, that you've been seeing the word community all over the place. I find that very curious and very interesting that it's hitting you as well as myself, that I've been picking up that word myself. Um, Great job, Cindy, with the jewelry selling. And that was also a spectacular buy with that Japanese style bowl thing. That bowl that you bought at the estate sale the other day. I actually bought it at Salvation Army, which is a thrift store here in Canada. I'm not sure if they have Salvation Armies in the States. I know they have Goodwills, but I'm not sure if they have Salvation Armies. And yeah, I paid $6.99 for that at the thrift store. And I'm really surprised nobody else spotted it. My eyes bulged the moment I saw it. I knew it was worth at least a couple of $100, but I was pleasantly pleased when I saw what it was actually worth. I listed it right away, not expecting to sell it, maybe take best offer of a $400 or $500 if I was really lucky. But then to have two watchers on it already with less than 100 views, that is pretty amazing. And I'm not in a rush to sell it because that money is going to be specifically for my trip, and specifically it's going to be going towards the car rental, so it'll make it so I only have to put in a few $100s more, and then the car's taken care of. And then with my income tax return, right, I can pay for the camping spots. Then all I need is gas money and a few groceries. And remember what I said last year, right? We're not investing money in a lot of groceries because most of those groceries came home with me. Right? I just over prepare. I get excited about my trips, and I always say, okay, Cindy, 2 weeks before you go on your trip, then you can start going through your camping gear and deciding what you want to take and making your grocery list and start picking up the groceries. As every time you go to the store, you make it a rule of picking up something for the trip. Already I'm racking my Tim Hortons points right now so that during my trip, all my coffees are free. Every time I go through a drive-through or something, I can have a free coffee throughout my trip. I'm pretty good. I've got my September trips pretty down packed. And once I've got my camp spots picked and paid for, then there's no turning back. There's no going to Scotland or Portugal or Spain or Italy. Like, I am going camping, and I'm happy for that. There's nothing I love better than sitting lakeside or riverside at sunset or at sunrise and just appreciating being alive, right? Being in Mother Nature, being grateful and actually proud of myself that I accomplished the trip, right? Kind of got my legs chopped off at the knees when my sister took my car back, right? So I was like, boo hoo, boo hoo, right? That I can't get out and about like I used to. But I make sure this gift for myself, and it is a gift. It is my my bag at the end of the stick that I carry over my shoulder. It's my gift to myself, whether I feel I deserve it or I feel I don't deserve it. And whether I deserve it or I don't deserve it, I don't care. It's a gift to myself. It's part of creating the best human being I possibly can in keeping me goal oriented and also being the evidence that even somebody who is, living in a low income, right, living in a low income life can still set goals and accomplish them in just taking baby steps, in paying attention and moving towards what we want in life. And I haven't failed myself yet. I suspect I won't fail myself this year. Possibly I could, but if I did fail, I would just pick myself up, brush my knees off, and I say, okay, let's try for October. October don't work. Let's try for December. December doesn't work. Okay, we're going to Portugal or we're going to Scotland. I don't think I'd want to go to Scotland in full blown winter because there's a lot of humidity in the air, especially being surrounded by the ocean. And even though the temperatures don't get as low as they do here in this province that I live in. If you don't know, I live in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. We get to those minus 40s, minus 50 Celsius, and it gets wicked cold, but it's a dry cold. It's not usually like today, a lot of moisture in the air. But that's what brings you down, right? That's really hard on the bones, arthritis. I mean, um, my mother's doctor suggested to her that we should move to Manitoba, and they were really surprised that the doctor suggested Manitoba, but it was because specifically, even though it's very, very cold, it's very, very dry. And that moisture doesn't go right through to the bone, and it's actually quite healthy for people who deal with arthritis. Yeah, my mother had 12 different types of osteoporosis, different types of arthritis. Yeah. Okay, let's just come down here before we grab a card tonight. I've been at it, you guys. So, tonight we're just going to keep it a little bit light and we're going to make it short enough so that I'm not going to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning like I did last night because my live show was an hour and a half yesterday. um, Oh, okay. Sorry about that. And yes, we got some Salvation Army thrift stores too, which is nice. I go to them and Goodwills too. Well, keep your eye out, Tammy, right? Those scores are always, always happening. And some of those scores you don't even know really unless you kind of know the about the item a little bit, right? My sister picked up a marble for 25 cents and she sold the marble for $800. Can you imagine that? A marble. She sold it for $800. But my sister is really smart that way too. Like I said, she supported her family for over 30 years as a reseller in buying products from thrift stores and estate sales too. We do estate sales too. I like the estate sales. You get some really good deals sometimes at the estate sales. It's sad that people's possessions are being sold right after they pass away, but at the same time, uh, people can benefit, right, by that loss. And, somebody should feel good that, sometimes that these items that for the most part people can't afford, that there are times when they are affordable and it makes you happy, right? You know how happy I was when I got that bonsai tree planter, right? I was super happy. Okay, you guys, before Tammy goes off again, we're going to pick a card. We're just going to, I don't know why I'm turning my head, right? But I'm turning my head because these words keep showing up and I want to make sure that everybody sees I'm not purposely picking these words. So we're going to pick something different today. I am determined into it. It's going to be something. We're going to just take this top one right here. Let's get it out of there. There we go. Make sure it's only one. It is. Okay, you guys. Oh, there's two of them here. I said the top one, so we're gonna put the bottom one away. What was the bottom one? Tenderness. Oh, that's a good word. Okay, but that's not the word we get. It was the top one. It's this one here. What is it? Happiness. Oh my goodness. What a great word. I've never pulled this. I remember what I said. I want to pull a card I've never pulled before, and I haven't pulled this card since I actually had to delve into the word happiness for an entire week. And happiness happens when you love what you're doing. Oh my goodness, what we were kind of saying when I came in, right? That I really love being a reseller and partnering up with my sister. It's a lot of fun. It's not my dream job, but when I'm not working, it keeps me busy. It adds those qualities of pride. Good job, Cindy. It gives me that exhaustion of, oh my goodness, I worked hard today. That nobody can say that I'm a slacker. And at the same time, I'm being a responsible person by putting the roof over my own head, that I'm not asking for assistance. And, I'm only, oh my goodness, I think I'm 8 months away from official retirement, or my full pension starts kicking in. So I'm pretty excited about that too, because in my life, we're going to trail off a side branch here. In my life, I mentioned that, my family has always been kind of low income, but not because they weren't hard workers, not because they weren't bringing in good money. My dad was a commercial fisherman. He took off for a few months, a few times a year, and he made huge money, like huge money, because he worked for himself. He was an entrepreneur too, right? And he loved being a fisherman. He loved being his own boss and not having to answer to anybody. But going down that side branch, my mother also worked in hospitals. She worked in housekeeping. She wasn't a nurse or a surgeon or anything. She worked in housekeeping, mostly in the maternity wards where she would keep them clean and take care of the babies, and not like medically, but she was picking them up and holding them because contact is really important. And she would take the laundry and clean up any messes that were going on. And when they retired her, she was kind of forced into retirement because of the arthritis. But when she went into retirement in her early 40s, uh, she was making like $4,000 a month in pensions. In pensions. Like, holy moly, that is such good money for somebody who just did housekeeping in hospitals. So even though they both brought in good money, they were frivolous with that money. Maybe my mother wasn't so frivolous because my mother was covering my father's gambling debts. And also, she had to pay the mortgages. She had to She had to pay the bills. She had to make sure there were groceries in the cupboards, right? For myself, I was also working by the time I was 10. I had my own money, but I was frivolous. I wasn't gambling at that time, but at that time, I was sneaking off and buying chocolate bars, and I was going to movies and buying popcorn and clothes and having fun, enjoying my life. And I think that was good for me to have those adventures, because if I didn't have my own money, if I didn't have the say in my own money, I wouldn't have been able to be in any way happy, right? And that is because I didn't have much going in my life. I didn't have friends. I wasn't getting along at home. I wasn't getting along at school. But I could make my own adventures, and I somehow found my own joy. And I had my sisters. And when I was a kid, my sister Tracy was my best friend. She was probably my only friend. That's not true. I had friends here and there, but not in that popular group, right? But I was talking about that, and I trailed off a side branch. We'll go back into it tomorrow, right? So happiness happens when you love what you're doing. And to each one of us, we get to decide sometimes, right, in our caregiving, sometimes in that necessity of putting a roof over our heads, taking whatever job is handed to us just because of the necessity or the being desperate for that we can't find happiness in that, because we're going to work where we're miserable, right? That we don't like the people that we work with. Maybe we don't like our bosses, right? Maybe we get work to the bone. We just don't maybe find the work even interesting, but we do it because it's a paycheck, right? And if there's one thing that I've learned that it's really important, even with your jobs, to find the joy in it. We can all find the joy in a job that we're doing. Remember, we were talking yesterday, whistle while you work, right? To find what makes you happy in a job that you don't like doing, and it will serve you so well, right? Maybe it won't be the best thing ever. Maybe it won't be the job for the rest of your life, but maybe it will. Do you want to make yourself so miserable in a job that you know you have no choice, that you're just stuck in it, that you will be there forever? You could do in your own choices the baby steps to better yourself, to get you into a position where you could find a job that you absolutely love. But if you can't, then you have to do the whistle while you work, right? You have to smile when you're miserable, because you're either going to bring everybody down with you. And once you do that, oh my goodness, can you imagine the work environment? And it was specifically as to why I had to leave my last job. I loved my job. Was it my dream job? No. Was it where I thought it was going to end my working career? No, but I made the very best at it. And I was good at customer service. And because I love people, I took an interest in people because of, right, I practiced mindset. So maybe before then I wasn't so enthusiastic about, well, I like the customer service no matter what, because right, that's where compliments come from, that's where the raises come from, that's where the word of mouth comes from, that's where you make yourself indispensable to your bosses, where you'll be the last person to lose their job. And I took pride in that. But when I took this little thrift store job, oh my goodness, I absolutely loved it. I just loved everything about it. I loved the beautiful clothes I used to be able to get for pennies. I used to love the customers and the conversations and how I built it in. I built it into a community. Oh, Jesus, Tabby. I built it into an actual community. And, I prided myself in that. But sometimes when one person is miserable or they're sick or they're in a job they absolutely hate, they bring everybody else down. And it was kind of a situation that I got into, right? Because I enjoyed so much and because I am uh, loud speaking, right? I have a voice and a tone that does carry that it can be irritating for somebody who's not in a state of mind where they're happy. We talked about how we rub each other wrong sometimes and that's what was going on. And I paid for that and I didn't understand why I had to pay for doing a good job, why I had to pay for being happy. And in the end, right, I understood happiness is when you love what you're doing. It got to the point where I didn't look forward to going to work because, right, there were certain people that were going to be in my space and not because I did anything wrong, right? But, right, when somebody hurts, they want everybody to hurt. When somebody feels bad and miserable, they want everybody to be feeling bad and miserable. When they're getting in heck, they pass that down the line. And sometimes people think that, just because I'm optimistic, that it's an actual insult to somebody else and they'll take offense to that. And I get that, right? I get that. But there's nothing I can do about it because I'm myself. I'm genuine and I'm trying to love my job. And when it got to the point where I had to whistle while I work, smile when I was sad, right? I knew that it was time to go. But I kind of dragged my bum in that, right? Because I still had to put a roof over my head. So I held on for as long as I could have, and I should have left when the thought first came to me because I wasn't doing what I loved. Now, am I doing what I love right now? I do like very much what I'm doing right now. But there are other things that I would much rather be doing that I know that I would love, right? But it's in those choices and in those baby steps, in moving towards your goals that you get to experience, right? You get to accomplish those things that are important. And that's why it really is important to do what you love, no matter what, whether you're at work, whether you're at home, right? Even when you're at home and everything's going all haywire, you can get out, you can go for a walk, you can go to a movie, you can go sit out in the backyard, you can pick up the hobby of gardening. There's so many things that you can do to disassociate from what makes you unhappy because, the whole point is to calm the system down so that we can make that movement. So in the moment, we might not be happy, but in those small steps, those small choices, that little bit of movement that we can make, we can find happiness. We really can. We can find joy in absolutely everything, just like we can find gratefulness in absolutely everything. So here's your homework tomorrow, Tammy. Look to see and pay attention to those little moments of joy that come across your path, right? how the word happiness or how the experience of happiness comes into your life, whether it's for you or for somebody else. And I would be curious to know whether this word happiness comes across your path in any way. Hello, Earl. Nice to see you again tonight. How's your night going? See, I love that. It's a wonderful evening. I just love that because, right? Happiness is when you're doing, right? When you love what you're doing. And I really appreciate that you're having a wonderful evening, Earl. That's really awesome. And I hope, Tammy, you're having a wonderful, enjoyable evening. I had a wonderful, enjoyable day, but I have a lot of those days, right? Because even though it's not the end game where I'm sitting in this moment, I have to enjoy this moment and I have to fill my day up with numerous, right, moments that bring that lightheartedness to what I need to get done, right? And of course, for that carryover in the attitude, right? And attitude is a powerful word. It's not in my deck, but attitude is a really good word because lots of times if you keep that in check, it's not like this. If you got something to say, if you have a grudge or something, you can find ways to graciously bring them up, right? But you'll feel good that you did because it festers inside of you if you don't get that stuff out of you that bothers you, right? And it's in our choices, and resolving those little issues helps you to get to this word happiness, right? It's all a state of mind, and that's a truth. Lots of times those little moments, they come to you like magic, but for most of us, right, we have to drum it up in our own steam. So whatever we can do to initiate and make sure that we are in surroundings and in company of things that make us smile and make us feel good, that's only going to get us one step closer to happiness. And happiness comes to each one of us, right? We think life is horrible. Oh my goodness, life is miserable. It's never going to get better. But I bet you can go back in the course of 24 hours and find a few things that brought happiness and joy to your life. And that's the truth. But we're so paying attention to the negative, we never pay attention to the real positive until it's overflowing, right? Sometimes you just need a little bit to get to that next point, to that next choice that'll get us a little bit closer, right? To doing what we love. There we go. I'm just going to leave it like that. A person can usually be happy if and when they learn many people are demon possessed and how to avoid them. When you mean that, you can be happy. Or when you learn that, you can be happy. Yeah, I always treat people how they treat me, in that kindness. I understand that lots of times that people don't mean to be cranky. They don't mean to be mean. They don't mean to be hating on you. And I feel out intent. I don't specifically go, oh my goodness, that person looks angry, because I know lots of people who look angry. Look at my face with no expression on. You would think I was a mean person, right? Because I got jowls. I was a smoker for like 10 years. Look at it's a frown. It goes down. And that's not because I'm frowning. That's just the natural framing in my face. And lots of people would say, "Ooh, I'm not going near that. She looks like she's in a bad mood." And I've had that said to me before when I was in a perfectly happy mood. And then just having that said to me kind of brings me down into the dumps, because it's never in my intent. And for the most part, for a very long time, I do have worries on occasion, but am I miserable? Am I mean? Am I vindictive? Not in any way. But if somebody walks by my path, they might perceive that, right? And I would hate to think that if I walked down the sidewalk and Earl was walking towards me on the other side, that he might step off to the side because, oh, he's thinking that's a demon. And I would never think that way. And lots of times, in somebody being miserable or sad, depressed, even upset. And lots of times somebody fires you at work, right? You're not going to go la di da di da di da unless you just wanted to be out of there, right? La di da di da di da, right? No, that's not true. And somebody who would recognize that in you, and it's to feel the intent, right? And to learn the difference in being sad or being angry, or right. And it's okay to be angry, but being mean, that's another story. Now, yes, you want to step aside from that, because if somebody is mean, they still might be just being mean because they're sad, but they've allowed too much to come in because they've got themselves in a negative state that now they just want to bring everybody down to their state, right? So I get that, but it takes all kinds to make the world. It really does. And as long as you can kind of work on the same base values and interconnect with each other on those base values, like don't yell at me, don't swear at me. Don't call me stupid. Don't call me names in any way. Don't be mean to anybody in front of me. Like there's baseline values. If you can manage not to do that, and even if you are a little bit miserable, right? You respected me enough not to cross those boundaries. The least that I could do was sit with you for a few minutes and see if maybe I could cheer you up a little bit, right? And that's the truth. We have to be that example for each other. I'm a true believer. It takes all kinds to make the world, but yes, you don't want to be around that stuff, right? 24/7. And if you actually see something or know somebody who is like truly out of there, I mean, right? They've come across my path, and it's not often, and I'm grateful that I recognize it for what it is. But again, like I said, sometimes I stay with it for longer than I should, because why? You got to put a roof over your head, right? And it's sometimes you just can't avoid these people because somebody else hired them, so they're a coworker, right? but but uh but I have a bit of tolerance in that, because I understand that sometimes we can cheer each other up. Sometimes we can be that light in somebody else's darkness. And I believe that to be a truth. And I think, as the world moves forward a little bit, I think we're going to appreciate that a little bit more. But, right, you have to feel out the intent. Did they mean for you to get down into that state with them? Right? Did they mean to be mean to you? Did they mean to swear at you? Did they mean to call you stupid? Well, you'll know because they'll apologize to you, right? If they didn't mean it, right? There'll be a conversation, an explanation, a little bit of retribution, or not retribution, but kindness coming back at you. I'm really sorry. Why don't you take the rest of the day off with pay? Okay, how fabulous. And right away, I'm all cheered up because I get to go to work or I get to go home early and I'm thinking nice things about whoever said that I could go home, right? So, unless we're around these people, we can't affect them in a good way. Yes, we can affect them and they can affect us in a bad way. But I think everybody deserves to have a little sunshine every once in a while, right? It makes life bearable at the very least. Okay, let's just come in here for one more time. It's not the face, Cindy, but it's their eyes. Oh, Earl, I do the eye thing too. I really do. I have to remember though that in feeling out intent, I recognize that lots of people, because they have inferiority complexes. And even though, like, I have inferiority complexes, right? And so sometimes, they'll be afraid to look me in the eye, but I don't recognize, like, I'm intimidated by that because of my own inferiority, right? So we have to feel out again in the intent, but you're right, 100%. The eyes give it away every time. And yeah, I trust you in that one because I use that too, right? Sometimes we get to that point where, like, scanners, right? It doesn't take us long. We get into a situation and we can just tell in a couple of minutes whether that's somebody we want to get to know a little bit better, or oh, what did we just step into? And then we just politely move ourselves out of that situation. But that comes from being highly sensitive and empathic. And we got to appreciate not everybody has those skills, right? We earn those badges. We have the right to use those badges because that's what saved our butts when we were kids, when we were being, attacked verbally, mentally, emotionally, physically, right? That we become a little bit hyper vigilant in that. We can read that a little bit better than others can. And so we can make proper and faster assessments in that. So I can't say that rule will work for everybody because each one of us is built differently, right? We have different experiences that build us differently, and some of us, we catch on a little bit faster than others. Okay, you guys. Oh, you're very. I would hope that you didn't see that in my face, Earl. Right? I have my moments. Everybody has moments, but I would hate to think that somebody caught me in that moment and automatically just decided that I was somebody to stay away from and not appreciate that maybe I was just having a moment. Okay, you guys, that's going to be my good cheer tonight. I'm going to just do up my few dishes, get in my pajamas, and call it a night. And I hope you guys, well, you don't have to do the same, right? Enjoy your evening. And Tammy, make sure you keep your eyes open for that word, and let's all, Earl too, like see how that word happiness comes into your life in different ways, whether it's conversations or experiences or adventures or little trip ups, right? Maybe it comes from somebody that you never appreciated before, and you'll get to realize that it really does take all kinds to make the world. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. Thank you for the compliment, Earl. That was nice of you. Tammy, go back to your videos. Have a great night.